Hello YouTube, it's Anders here on Watch On channel. Today the full review of one of my favorite dream watches. This watch from Grand Seiko, some of the very best from the famous Japanese watchmaker, has been kind of a grail watch for me, and I found a great deal a few weeks ago and it became mine. Now I have become very acquainted with this watch and I'm ready to do the full review. Just to show you the packaging, it comes in a cardboard box, and then you have this kind of leather, very nice blue leather box with GS Grand Seiko printing on the top of it. And opening the box, here we find the watch, and this is of course the Grand Seiko Snowflake. So this is the SBGA 211, and this is definitely one of the most beautiful watches I have seen in many years, in my opinion. It's especially because of the dial, but the whole composition and the finishing of the case and the bracelet, it just makes it to be a very exquisite timepiece in my opinion. So what we got here is one of the very most popular and famous models of the Grand Seiko line. So very shortly, Grand Seiko is kind of the luxury end of the Seiko brand, and after 2017 they decided to rebrand the watches. So before 2017 it said Seiko at 12 o'clock and then Grand Seiko down here at 6 o'clock. But they decided to rebrand the watches and to really put a lot of effort and investment into the Grand Seiko brand. And they tried to brand it as a Grand Seiko, not a Seiko. So spring drive is also a very interesting movement, which I'm going to get into just in a short while. So why did I buy this watch? Well, mostly it's because of the dial. So this is the very famous Snowflake dial, and this is inspired by the Japanese snowfall where they produce these watches. It's inspired by nature and the mountains and the snowfall and the winter. And I just think it's a very special and beautiful dial. I actually read an article about the Snowflake on Fratello Watches, which is a website writing about watches. And they're really talking about this dial being so unique that no other watch brand or anybody else can really replicate this dial because it's so different. So as you can see, it's very textured. It has this beautiful snowy texture to it. And that was definitely the reason why at first I got to fall in love with this watch. I also really just liked the whole package, and then I liked the idea of the spring drive movement. So the spring drive movement is basically a mechanical movement, but it's also a quartz movement. So it's kind of a hybrid between mechanical movement and quartz movement. It's wounded mechanically, as you can see, and I will get more into the back side of this watch just in a few minutes. It has a rotor and it has a spring, just like a typical luxury mechanical watch. But the thing with this movement is that it's actually kind of a brake movement. So they built the movement to actually store the energy in the spring. It has no battery like a quartz movement, but they built the movement to actually be loaded with energy like a mechanical movement. But actually the whole thing with the movement is that it has a regulation that is always braking, putting the foot on the brake or loosening the foot of the brake to acquire very high accuracy. That is why we get this amazing gliding second hand, as you can see here. So it moves at 36,000 vibrations per hour, so you get this very nice glide. It's also a completely silent movement. You don't get the ticking sound you get with a mechanical movement. So that was very shortly about the spring drive movement, a very unique movement that took the man behind 20 years to build and perfect, and actually he died before it was really commercialized by Seiko. So 20 years of work went into this movement, and it's very accurate. So Seiko, they say you get less than 1 second off per day or approximately 15 seconds off per month. I have experienced this movement to be extremely accurate. I would say that less than 15 seconds per month is the accuracy, and that's absolutely amazing. It's a highly accurate movement. So getting into the dial, we get these beautiful applied hour markings. They are actually handmade, they're hand finished. We have a person at the factory actually hand finishing these hour markings for hours and hours and hours. They work to perfect it. It's absolutely the same with the beautiful hands, as you can see, also very beautifully finished and beautiful high polish to the hands as well. And then you get the blue second hand. It can be a little hard to see, it almost turns black, but it's actually a beautiful blue color. So again, Grand Seiko applied at 12 o'clock, at 6 o'clock spring drive, down here, Japan at 6 o'clock. At 3 o'clock we get the date window. I really like the font, and I think it really blends into the dial. And here at 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you get the power reserve. So this spring drive movement has a power reserve of 72 hours. And let me just try to wind it. This is a screw down crown, by the way. The funny thing is that when you wind this spring drive movement, it almost sounds like you're trying to start your lawnmower or something. It's such an exquisite watch, such a perfect movement, such beautiful details. But that part of the watch is really funny because it just sounds so strange when you think about how perfect this watch is. So try to listen. A really strange sound in my opinion. No big problem, but it sounds like you're winding an old maybe clock or something like that. It doesn't sound like this exquisite high-tech movement on this beautiful exquisite watch. So signed crown, screw down crown, signed with the GS. The case finish is a whole other story. This is the famous Zaratsu hand-finished case. The polishing is Zaratsu, and this is a famous Japanese way of polishing by hand. So this is very much a Japanese exquisite finishing on the case. The case is absolutely beautiful. As you can see, it's also, as you can see, me with my cloth, a smudge magnet because of the high polish. Again, here you can sense the high, beautiful polish. So you get this beautiful light brushing on the top of the locks, and then the beveling here on the side of the case is beautifully Zaratsu polish, and also the side of the case very nicely made. The bezel is also high polish. The watch is made of titanium, and it's what Seiko call high intensity titanium, which means that it's very much scratch resistant compared to regular titanium, which can be kind of a nightmare regarding scratches. So this is a very beautiful and interesting titanium alloy they're making this watch of, and this also means that the watch is very light. It weighs approximately 30% less than a stainless steel watch, and that's definitely something to get acquainted to, and you have to really find out if you can really wear a watch where you can't really feel that you're wearing the watch. It's extremely light, this watch. I actually think it's really nice to wear a watch that is almost kind of not there. You don't feel it on your wrist. So compared to, for example, my Rolex Milgauss, this is like a feather, and the Milgauss is like a big lump of iron. Very nice titanium bracelet. So you get brushing, and then on the inner part here, on both sides of the center link, you get polishing, also polishing on the sides. A bit of a letdown in my opinion is that they actually don't put in screwed pins. They put in these regular pins, so you need to use a hammer, and that's kind of a bit lame in my opinion, because this watch retails at $5,800 US. You can find it a little cheaper on the secondary market, but I think it's a little bit of a letdown that they don't apply screwed pins to this watch, so it's much easier to adjust. It's just something you would expect from such an expensive watch. So let's have a look at the case back. And as I said, this case back is absolutely beautiful. It's a mechanical watch, but it's regulated with a quartz crystal, which is this kind of brake system I was telling you about. And here we see it a little up close. So you can also see the number of the movement. Made in Japan, titanium. Let me just turn it around. Water resistant to 100 meters, 10 bars. That's absolutely a big plus. This is essentially a hybrid between a dress watch and a sports watch. It has the sports watch look with the power reserve and stuff like that. But it also has kind of the feeling of a dress watch. So I think you get a very nice hybrid between dress and sports watch with this one. And here you can see the movement number. So 9R65 movement. It has 30 jewels and it's beautifully finished, as you can see. Absolutely beautifully finished. This is kind of Côte de Tokyo and not Côte de Genève. So the clasp, it's absolutely okay in my opinion. Grand Seiko logo, push button, and then it opens. This deployant. No micro adjustments, which is kind of a letdown in my opinion. You do get half links, so you can remove a half link, but I would really have liked a few micro adjustments, just of maybe 4 or 5 millimeters of ability to adjust the bracelet to the perfect wrist size. So on my 18 centimeter wrist in circumference, the Grand Seiko Snowflake looks like this. The interesting thing with this watch, we get modern dimensions, 41 millimeters in diameter, including the crown, 44, thickness of almost 13, that's approximately 13, lock width of 20 millimeters, so you can easily change to a strap if you don't like the bracelet or you want to have it on leather, and then you get approximately 47 millimeters from lock to lock, so that's very nice dimensions. I would probably, if I could really choose, take off 1 millimeter in diameter, so you get the very nice 40 millimeters, but as you can see on my wrist, 41 millimeters is definitely no problem. It also wears quite slim, not super slim, but quite slim on my wrist. So it's just a joy to wear this watch, and I really like this watch. Mostly because it's so accurate. It has the 72 hours of power reserve, which is really nice. But the thing I really like about this Grand Seiko Snowflake is the dial. So the dial is the king of this watch. Looking at the dial is just such a beautiful dial. So I definitely do not regret buying this watch, and this watch will stay part of my collection because it's a very different and exquisite timepiece in my opinion. It's definitely something completely different than you see at the same price range, where you have to look at maybe Omega and some of the lower prices with Rolex watches. So for less than $6,000 you get a completely luxury watch with a very special accurate movement and kind of an embodiment of what high-end Japanese watchmaking is all about. So I'm definitely thinking that this won't be my only Grand Seiko. I will probably get a true mechanical automatic Grand Seiko at some point, maybe a dress watch or maybe a GMT Grand Seiko. All in all, I'm very impressed. I can definitely recommend this watch and other Grand Seiko watches. If you don't like the Snowflake dial, you can get it on a beautiful white, black or champagne dial, which is more plain, so you don't get this snowflake texture. But I really like the difference of the dial of this watch. It's very special and very unique and very beautiful. So this was my review of the Grand Seiko Spring Drive Snowflake. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to share this video on the forums on Facebook where you talk watches with your friends and other people. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It's a big help. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. You can find the links down below, and leave a comment down below. Which Grand Seiko is your favorite, and do you think it's a fair price to pay approximately $6,000 for this watch compared to what you pay for a Omega or Rolex? I hope to see you soon in my next video. Thank you. Bye.